When it comes to Elbaf, nobody really cares about Zoro showing out. And I get it, Wano was the arc for all that Zoro greatness. Plus the whole Usopp Elbaf hype that's going on, mixed in with Luffy, Nika, lore as well. Hey, at this point, even the Sanji Scopper left-hand parallels put him more spotlighted than his rival, the right-hand Zoro. But I believe the same way Whole Island was Sanji's arc, but he showed his true power development in Wano, Zoro definitely gave us cool moments on the rooftop, but the power development will be in Elbaf, from getting a black blade like the world's greatest swordsman Mihawk to finally uncovering the eye mystery revealed when he destroyed the ship after the time skip. So let's do a deep dive on the fan favorite Roronoa Zoro and how his eye will open in Elbaf. Every time I look at this Zoro eye mystery, I like to highlight Zoro and Mihawk's training, because this is the time where he actually got his eye closed up. And I want to talk about how Zoro and Mihawk had their reunion, and it started with Zoro trying to find Luffy after Mihawk updated him on the Marineford War battle. Mihawk even blessed him with a boat, though it got ruined while Zoro was fighting the baboons, and Mihawk tells Zoro, relax, heal your wounds first, then go out to sea to look for Luffy. Because you see, Mihawk has a respect for Zoro. He wants Zoro to reach that pinnacle level, and he's just really trying to help Zoro's future in this moment. Zoro is just not, he's just thinking in the moment, like, I gotta get to Luffy right away. Mihawk even calls Zoro a conceited young fool, and Zoro says, I don't take orders from you. So we're seeing that Zoro is still living up to, my rival is Mihawk, and I'm not gonna look at him as superior because he's trying to surpass Mihawk. So I love how Oda kind of highlighted this in the beginning of Mihawk and Zoro's reunion. But all this changes when, of course, Zoro begs to be taught by Mihawk, and Mihawk is disappointed in him. If you don't remember it, during East Blue, Mihawk saw a lot of potential in Zoro. So for Zoro to beg to be taught by Mihawk, it was kind of really sad for Mihawk to see, like, oh, you really are a loser. I thought you were a goat, but you're actually a loser. Mihawk tells Zoro to kick rocks, I have no more interest in you, and laughs at Zoro unable to beat the baboons and go out to sea, and says that his expectations for Zoro were too high, and that's what pains him to watch Zoro beg and ask to be taught by Mihawk. And says, I have nothing to teach the likes of you. So Mihawk is completely just insulting Zoro. And Zoro says he wants to be strong like a bot. Like, that's his reply. I just want to be strong. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was shocked myself. I'm like, yo, Zoro, you're going out bad right now. Zoro then lets Mihawk know that he defeated the baboons and his head is the only one left, which shocks Mihawk, and it shocked me too. I'm like, oh, okay, so Zoro isn't a scrub. He actually is the guy. Which I always knew Zoro was the guy, but I mean, like, in a sense of his actions over here were kind of like scrub-like. But it's funny because his actual actions were not scrub-like. He defeated the baboons, and honestly, Mihawk was just in complete shock. If you can shock the world's greatest swordsman, one of the strongest characters in the story, it means your durability is insane. And that's one thing we've always known from Zoro, even pre-time skip. His durability is out of this world. Zoro says logically he can't be Mihawk here and now, and Mihawk asks, why beg for teaching if I'm still your enemy? Like, you can see Mihawk's very confused with Zoro's actions. He says one thing, but he does another. And then Zoro says, because so I may surpass you. And Mihawk laughs at the fact Zoro is asking Mihawk to teach him to kill him in the future. Mihawk says his actions are unsightly, kind of reminds me of a child asking for something that just doesn't, like, why would I give it to you? But as a child, so you think about giving it to them because you feel bad for them. That's how Mihawk's looking at Zoro right now. And Mihawk is smart enough to know Zoro has found a greater cause than his own ambition. And Zoro wants to become the greatest swordsman, not for himself like previously, or not for Kuena like previously. That still matters, but Luffy's goal of becoming Pirate King requires Zoro to be the world's greatest swordsman. So it's not doing it just for himself or a dead person in the past. He's doing it for a living person. And I personally love this character growth that Oda was highlighting through Zoro here. Mihawk knows Zoro will only ever choose when it's for the sake of another. This trait is unique to Zoro and characters like Sanji that Luffy doesn't really hold. Even Mihawk isn't really like this, where, like, a lot of people even call Luffy selfish in a sense. And Mihawk is just a proud loner. Like, he does not want to be around humans. So Zoro and Sanji are the ones willing to do it for others. That's why they're the perfect wings for Luffy. Luffy needs his left hand and right hand to be like that when it comes to their personality. And I love it. Now, after the time skip, I noticed that Oda made on purpose Zoro the first to come see Rayleigh and Sabaody of the Straw Hats when it comes to 3D2Y. This is important because Zoro is usually last when it comes to these type of things. He usually gets lost. But I think this is because Zoro wanted him to be, Oda wanted his Zoro to be first so he can meet the previous vice captain to the Pirate King. As Zoro is about to embark on this journey to the new world, I know he definitely has Rayleigh some interesting questions when it comes to pertaining to being the right hand of Luffy. And I wonder if Oda's going to really expose this in the Elbaf arc. Fast forward to Dressrosa. After Zoro defeats Pika, he says, no nicks or scratches, as we see a flashback of Mihawk teaching him Haki and how he can protect his swords. Mihawk also said every nick and mark is a shame, and every weapon can be turned into a black blade like mine. So to me, this is foreshadowing two things. First of all, this is foreshadowing that Zoro will get a damage, a scratch, a nick in Elbaf to a very strong enemy. And it's going to be the reason why Zoro gets probably a new sword, and Zoro probably gets stronger in his Haki. Secondly, Zoro's getting a black blade in Elbaf. If Zoro's going to get the embarrassment shame of getting some damage to his sword, he has to come back, get back stronger, and get a black blade. So he permanently never gets damage to his sword. As Haki can only do so much, as we've seen in the story. So that's my take on this whole flashback we saw during Dressrosa. Now, when it comes to after the time skip, Zoro has had some interesting highlights on his powers and his moves, because at the end of the day, Zoro opening his eye, people think is gonna be related to a moveset. I do too as well. So you have to look at Zoro's main techniques. And we all know that in Dressrosa, one of his first main techniques was that 1080 slash pound attack, which is pretty much just a remix of the attacks we saw him develop in Skypiea and further develop as the story went on against Braham and Om. And now reaching 1080 shows how devastating Zoro's DC destructive capability is when it comes to slicing up Pika. That's the first thing I want to talk about. Secondly is Zoro using Haki for the first time when it comes to coding his sword in Haki and defeating not just any regular character, a character coded in full body armor Haki, which we know is a very respectable move for Haki users. If you're able to do full body armor Haki, it means your armor Haki is like your specialty. We saw it with Virgo, we saw it with Jinbei and Wano. It means you have really strong armor Haki, and Zoro cut him up with showing that his Haki was stronger. This was the second thing that I took note of when it comes to Zoro's powers and ability after the time skip. Then of course there's Wano. During Wano, Zoro came in with the Black Blade Shisui that he didn't turn into a Black Blade, so he had no right to holding. So he now of course obtains Kuzuki Oden's sword, the Enma, and the Enma made Kaido dodge. Yes, it made Kaido dodge, and Big Mom even told Kaido, another Yonko telling another Yonko to dodge is an insane feat from Zoro. This Enma sword was taking out an immense amount of Haki, and this sword was definitely a really good upgrade for Zoro when it comes to his powers and ability. Then of course is also Ashura. Ashura is the power that started off against Kaku in Eni's lobby, which I thought Ashura was very cool. I believe he used it in Sabaody as well again, but Zoro doesn't really spam this attack. But when Zoro didn't use it the entire time skip all the way up to the rooftop in Wano, and he brought it out to scar Kaido in his hybrid form, showing that yes, Zoro is Ashura with Conqueror's Haki coding as well, was legit. Honestly, I was like, yo, this is all what we've been waiting for. Let's be honest here. We've all been waiting for Ashura. We knew that Zoro wasn't trying unless he used Ashura. And when he used Ashura with all his bones broken in his body after blocking and a combo attack from Big Mom and Kaido, this to us was the peak pinnacle of everything that Zoro's been holding back since the time skip. Now during the King fight, this is where we see Zoro start to develop a little bit towards the end of Wano, where he does Conqueror's Haki coding on his swords and defeats King the Lunarian, which is obviously connected to the Void Sentry. So we have to talk about it after seeing the Nika lore in chapter 1138. Anything that connects to the Void Sentry is a big deal. King of Hell mode with the Conqueror's Haki coding. This really, to me, makes me look at Zoro as upper echelons, because if Zoro doesn't have Conqueror's Haki coding, Law and Kid are easily stronger than Zoro. But because he has Conqueror's Haki coding, now is debatable. I'm not going to answer who's stronger between Zoro, Kid, and Law, because they're all incredibly powerful. Law and Kid have strong Haki, but they don't have Conqueror's Haki coding. We don't even know if Law has Conqueror's Haki, and Kid has Conqueror's Haki, but we know for sure he doesn't have Conqueror's Haki coding. But they both have awakened Delve fruits that kind of help him out in a sense if they were fighting Zoro. But that Conqueror's Haki coding to me, Kaido's are the best, yo. This moveset is a big deal. Honestly, I think this really makes Zoro a guy when it comes to power scaling in the One Piece story. And then in Naked Island, we see Zoro, of course, against Rob Lucci with his Conqueror's Haki coding, and scars him up real bad. So we're starting to see Zoro is able to scar up some pretty impressive zones, from Kaido to from Kaido the mythical zone to Awakened Zoan, Carnivorous Kind Rob Lucci. And then of course we also see him clash with Venus Drew, and that was when the whole debate of, does Venus Drew have a Black Blade? And not even a black blade, does he have a supreme grade sword? Yeah, so because we all saw when they clashed. Yes, that's right, the sword called Kitetsu that both Zoro and Rinnojiru has. And Rinnojiru obviously has a supreme grade sword that has ties to the Void Sentry. Then of course there's Silver's Rayleigh and Scopper Gaban. We see Scopper Gaban loves ladies, or loves love in a sense. Went for a giant and when it comes to building a family. Sanji loves every type of race when it comes to girls. Even Luffy paralleled before the fans did it. Like he said, you remind me of an older Sanji. Scopper Kaban was the left hand of the Pirate King crew. Now, if Scopper Kaban reminds Luffy of Sanji, we already know that Oda's connecting Rayleigh to Zoro, and Rayleigh has a scar on his eye, but it's open. Rayleigh's eye is open while Zoro's eye is closed. And Rayleigh probably is connected, then when it comes to parallel with Zoro, it probably has a similar power that's going to be revealed as well once Zoro's power gets revealed, in my opinion. So let me just say this. The Iron Giant had Joy Boy's haki stored inside of him, and Enma unleashed your haki from inside of you. So I believe Zoro will have stored a special type of haki during his training with Mihawk. And it's a strange kind that the Gorosei and Imu have. Yes, the demon haki that Scarper just noticed coming from the castle. I also believe Rayleigh's eye scar was from his special haki Dark King style, kind of like a Zoro has King of Hell mode. Expect Zoro to do some dark eye technique sooner than we think. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Mihawk's haki is stored into Zoro's eye. And Mihawk said use it if you ever get into a last like surviving situation where you have to use it. So same way that Joy Boy's haki was stored in the Iron Giant. And I feel like Zoro might even use it against Mihawk, but I personally feel like it's better if he uses it in Elbaf, and when he sees Mihawk again, Mihawk comments, oh, so you used my haki. Let's see if you actually can now take on my haki. That to me would be crazy storytelling. It would be hype. I don't know, me as a fan, I just think that would be so cool to see. I would love if Oda did that storyline. Now, who in Elbaf do I think Zoro's going to open his eye against? I think there's some really capable opponents. First off, there's Loki. Loki is stronger than King. That's the thing with Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci was incredibly powerful. He's an awakened Zoan with great haki, Rokushiki, CP0, all that. I get it. But the thing is, Rob Lucci was around King level, but I didn't think he was stronger than King. Zoro, when he goes to the next arc, needs opponents stronger than his previous opponents. And I think that Loki is stronger than Rob Lucci and King with his legendary Delve Fruit, with his future sight. And honestly, he probably has Kankasaki coding too as well. So the fact that only Sanji was, not Sanji, the fact that only Shanks was the only one to defeat him when King Harold and Scopper Gaban was there as well, shows that he probably has Kankasaki coding. Now next is also Shamrock. Shamrock is a great battle as well too, because of course Shamrock has that mythical Cerberus sword power, the 3-sword style. I thought that was very cool. Then of course he might have got powers bestowed upon him by Imu, and he probably has Kankasaki coding as well, being the son of Frigga Garling and brother of Shanks. So I just think that Zoro has two capable fights that can damage his sword, help him turn into a black blade, and unleash that eye power. And as a fan, if you're a Zoro fan, you should be all for this, because you're gonna get a treat of a story seeing this. Now I want to talk about one last thing before I go. And this might get a lot of fans against me, because we all know how loyal Zoro is to Luffy. Zoro's loyalty to Luffy is insane. It's remarkable. Honestly, I love it. But what if Zoro's eye power is uncontrollable, just like how Enma was uncontrollable, and it takes over him? And we get a situation like Majin Vegeta with Zoro with his eyes open, and Zoro has to be stopped by Luffy. If we get a Luffy Zoro Elbaf fight and Zoro ends up being one of the villains of Elbaf and Luffy has to defeat him to get Zoro back to his side, it's like Sanji versus Luffy back in the Whole Island but on steroids. Fans might get angry at me, but I think that'd be a very cool storyline, honestly, because right now Elbaf doesn't really have a legitimate villain. Yes, there's the Holy Knights, and yes, there's Shamrock and Loki, but no, they're not really legitimate villains yet who have put a stamp on it like Kaido was. So yeah, me as a fan, I wouldn't mind. Like, it's either Zoro becomes that dark character or Frigga Garling. I could talk about this for days, but some people might get mad at me, so I had to leave it for the end of the video to see the true fans' take on it, not the fake fans. So yeah, if you're in the comments talking about this and debating about it, it means you made it to the end, so respect.